Okay, I'm calling the
Here's
meeting
Robert.
okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. So if anybody that's not on this Zoom call at the moment, they will be able to catch up. So permanent exhibit status opening.
Peggy, you're muted. Sorry.
That's okay.
And Robert, you are too.
I couldn't, where I'm sitting is outdoors and there's such a reflection, I can't even see what's up on the screen, sorry. So just a semi update on that is that there will be, by the end of the month, the Historic Preservation in the Rose City, that permanent exhibit will be mounted. And that will be followed by the exhibit of Betty Chilstrom paintings. And the staff has decided to do a official openings reception in October as a lead into year-end campaign. So we haven't got a firm date on that yet. We're trying to work out some of the details, but that's just what's going on. The permanent exhibit will be available. People will see it when they come in, but the official kind of splash we're pushing to October. Val's he's taking an extended vacation in Europe in September, and so it was just a little too crunched. So anyway, and
Okay,
I think
so you said it's called Historic Preservation in the Rose City.
Yeah, that's the one that we had the grant funding for. It's new to me. I honestly don't even know what it includes, but
it's a history of preservation in the Rose City, dealing with Benny and Jerry and their legacy.
Right, and within the context of the larger movement, as far as I understand it.
Okay.
So that'll be exciting, and that's something Val's focused on. Something I neglected to put in just a quick note in the agenda before I forget is apparently the 990 tax filing for 2022 had been, an extension had been filed to clean up some past records, and those are ready to file. So I just have a question to ask. Are you going to sign it, Denise, as the president, or will Dan sign it as the treasurer, the form, the tax form?
Who has signed it in the past?
I don't know. At Restore Oregon, the president did it, but I can do
whatever the board, whatever you need me to do, I will do it. So you just tell me what you want, and I will make it happen.
All right.
I have two questions.
Well, I'm going to arbitrarily.
Are we back on the topic of the exhibit?
I hope so.
Okay.
So I thought we were done with it.
No, I have two questions to add before you jumped in with the 990.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Jane.
I'm sorry.
My questions are, is there an easy place that we can go and read the overview for the exhibition? And
I don't have that.
And why are you asking that question?
I assume it was part of the grant.
Why are you asking that question?
Okay. Yeah. I like to look at what was the intention of an exhibition to better understand it when I see it, and to also be talking to other people about going to see it. I mean, it serves multiple purposes. It's just, kind of, I like to be educated. I don't like to be, I love to be surprised, but I'd rather be educated. And then number two, there's been talk in the past, and I know certainly in other organizations, where there are different flavors of openings. There's like the sneak preview for major donor opening, and then there's the big damn deal, open to the entire public, all the members, it's flouted in all of the social media, blah, 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 blah. And maybe some other things like private viewings for extra special major donors. Is there any kind of hierarchy like that for this?
It doesn't, no, as far as I know, there isn't, but we can do that. I had thought about that myself, that we have maybe board and Genesis members and sponsors come in for a separate one, and then do like you say, the big splash. It's like, okay, everybody else, and it's much slower key and not as flashy.
Well, this is certainly something that the board development committee might want to take a look at, because it's like the kinds of things that we have talked about as a way for board members to get to know each other better.
Why
and also
we just plan on doing that, and Peggy can talk to Sarah and Sam about that.
Yeah. Well, what we are what we're focused on at the moment, and of course I'm still kind of getting my feet under me here,
Yeah.
is treating the opening as kind of a kickoff for the year-end campaign, which it's really important, which is going to be a
Yes.
big focus for us, kind of all hands on deck for staff on that. So so we haven't had an opportunity yet to flesh this out.
Okay,
But
great.
that that it is a work in progress. This is just an update. This is not our final everything's figured out.
Let me add one thing to that. Stephanie had already talked about doing that for this exhibit opening as a kickoff for the year-end giving. So that was something we had already talked about several months ago when she was applying for the grant. This is an opportunity for us to do that. Thing I wanted to add is that I have the gift for Stephanie. It is getting a plaque put on it, and as soon as that is available, it won't, well, since it's not till October, it'll be available well in advance. So you can just put that on the list. That was another thing we were going to do is basically do a thank you to her when the exhibit opens, whichever version of it we're doing.
Okay. So the thought was to do that at the exhibit open. Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Whichever one it is, because this would be her final sort of swan song with that. And so that was the thought. So the board authorized me to go ahead and take care of that.
Got it. Now I know.
It is done, and it is a beautiful photograph by Minor White that I've had framed. So
nice.
Very nice.
I will hit up the board later for their share of it. It really is going to be very inexpensive. You know me, I'm all about the deal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Website redesign project and update.
Yes. Again, all updates and some of the stuff I'm learning as you are.
Sure, that's
but
great.
We have spent yeah. Megan is just Megan. Samantha she reminds me of a kid I knew who was not kid, a young woman whose name was Megan. Anyway, she has been really crunching through that project, which I am discovering also has quite a bit of grant funding behind it. And right now we're putting all the finishing touches on the text for the website and pulling all the images together. The layout of the pages, kind of the template for the design is done. And anyway, this just going to go to the programmer this week, and it should be ready and done and tested by the 1st of November.
Exciting.
Are you thinking about maybe giving the board a sneak peek or whatever, or is there a preview period, or?
I think that what we'll do is we'll ask people, we'll invite people.
Yeah.
No, I understand, but I think actually, as you say that, what I'm imagining we will do is ask the board to test drive it before we completely make it live.
Oh, that's a great idea. Everybody concur with that? Want to be guinea pigs? All right, we've got
breaking websites.
You what?
I love to try and break websites.
Okay, all right, Dan. Thank you for your enthusiastic yes. I love that. I'm writing that down. Dan breaks websites. That sounds like a great moniker.
Lord help us.
All right, I'm working on that too. I'll get that going.
So, if we want to move to the next point about the proposal from Dale.
Yes.
This is the thing that I think is of particular importance.
Yes. Everybody got that before we move on? I have mine in front of me. Did everybody see that? Peggy sent it out. Yes. Okay. Is that a yes, Dan? Good. Is that a yes, Robert? That's a yes, John?
I think so. Okay, so this is I think a fantastic proposal and a first phase of digging into the fund development needs here. It is not in and of itself everything that we need to do, but it is the necessary first phase. So as you could probably glean from this, what we would, Dale would kind of do a condensed assessment of our needs, run our entire database through this analytical tool that will identify the hidden capacity of the members and donors from our list, and give us back a prioritized list of who to target and build relationships with as larger donors, and really help us from there develop a fund development strategy that takes us to the next level. A couple of things, Jane and I went through this with Dale, and a couple of the things that we did verify in case you had these questions. I will preemptively answer them. One is that by us giving him basically our database, our list, he has a very secure, from a security standpoint, there's no risk there, and also there's no credit card information or identity theft stuff in our database anyway. But they have a very, very secure apparatus and site there. And what were other questions? Oh, and what it's pulling from are public sources of information
Right.
about folks that are out there these days, because as we all know, we don't have that much privacy anymore. So it's going to look at things like political giving, what other nonprofits they share, what kind of real estate they own, what zip code they live in. That kind of stuff it will help ferret out folks that are likely to be able to give and do more with us. And to me, it is kind of a no-brainer that we would do this. We have about 6,000 records in our database. So to run those through his algorithm is about $1,100 and a $500 setup fee, and $600 for his time, which he is drastically discounted. So you know, it's about a $2,100 initiative that will really set us up for making some very good strategic decisions about our fundraising strategies, and should fold very well into our future planning. Jane, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Yes. I would urge everyone, if you haven't already done it, to go to the website of the company that Dale is now a member of to do this consulting work.
He makes philanthropy work.
Right. He uses the initials frequently, but if you haven't done that, I would strongly urge you to do that. It's very interesting to see their point of view and the kind of services they provide. And it also will, I think, give you a better sense of how he will be approaching our issues. So I would visit the website of the company. Underscore the fact that this is an assessment. This is step one. Dale has the capacity to help way beyond what this step involves, but this is a terrific first step to get a better handle on what the organization has to do. The third thing, and I don't know if, I think Peggy, you and I talked about this a teeny bit after we received the proposal, and that was about the Neon app that is being used to track donations now. And was a part of this assessment to take a look at that and see if that is actually the best program for this organization. And I ask this in particular because I have heard people talk about, say to me, some in connection with the evaluation of some of the big damn deal screw ups with donations that were not properly recorded and acknowledged. So I am particularly interested in Dale's assessment of that platform.
My understanding of in reading of this proposal, he is not going to go into a deep analysis of the app because he thinks Neon is a decent app. So sometimes the problem is what data got entered into it, you know.
You're right, and the user.
So yeah.
Okay.
But he seemed to indicate that was a very functional app for us to be on, given our size.
Okay, that's good.
Comments. Robert, comments. Robert,
Anybody?
Steve.
I don't.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay. I have no comment at this time. Unfortunately, I am driving, but I am listening intently.
Well,
To
just
the
make sure that you
conversation.
respond when we go, hey, Robert. So
I'm sorry.
And
Say it again.
when we call on you, please respond.
I will respond
As
as
you
fast
can.
as I can get off of mute. I will guarantee you that.
okay, one more thing, Robert, we and Dan and Steve and John, we're recording this. So I will send you the recording afterward.
Now,
Well,
I've heard every single word. I appreciate it, but
Yeah, he doesn't need it.
it sounds like this is has been vetted very well, and I am happy to take the recommendation of the rest of the executive committee.
Okay, John.
I think it's fine. The cost is not much, and it looks like it gives us a good look at Dale's capabilities, and I think they seem very, very large.
Dan, are you good with this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Steve, I saw your thumbs up. Okay, so I will say that without making a motion that the executive board agrees to move forward with this, that this is going to give us a good snapshot of what we need to know. And again, as you stated, this is a phase one. This is what we always agreed to. This would be a phase one. So I'm just thrilled with the concept that he's going to give us the once over, which I think is going to be excellent. Robert, you might as well stay off mute because we're getting to the building committee kickoff. You might want to add something with your expertise.
I am happy to get off mute right now. I'm not going to show you my face, though. That's where I'm going to draw the line.
We love your face anyway. Anyway, just for the record, Tracy, I forgot. I just looked at my note. Tracy's in Australia. So.
Oh, wow. Cool.
All right. Who's kicking it off?
I'm happy to say something.
Please.
Okay, the building committee consists of currently myself, Lincoln, Harris, and Peggy and Val. We have looked at, and Peggy, since you are in front of a computer and I am not, I'm going to rely on not my memory, but your eyes to fill in any of the blanks. But basically, we've looked at a number of things. The HVAC system, the sealing of the bricks, the exterior of the building.
You mean resealing?
Resealing.
Because they have been
yes.
sealed. Yeah.
Yes, they have. But it doesn't last forever. So
I
this
know.
is and basically I should start off by saying, as you all know, we are dealing with a physical plant that is aging. And so this is going to get probably, the list is going to get longer before it gets shorter.
Gee, that's not happening to any of us, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So there's the HVAC, the sealing of the brick,
And the gates.
There's 2 broken windows, and there's gates that we are looking at both in the front entrances and also the potential of gating off that rear sort of alcove. Excuse me, side alcove.
Yeah, where we take the garbage out.
Right, where you take the garbage out. And Peggy, is that it? Or is there one more thing?
Yeah, no, those are the things. And I think, and we agreed that the HVAC repairs were number one, but right behind it was the gates. Knowing that we have limited funds to start with, we need to go after some additional money. So I think we collectively as a committee agreed it was HVAC followed by gates, and obviously doing the work to be ready to do the other things. But the security situation at the building is really not good. And personally, I feel like the gates are pretty dang essential.
I would agree. I was in the area last Tuesday, pulled up to the building just because I do when I go by, and I had a lovely conversation with a guy who was like, hanging out there. He was very
Mhm.
nice, and I basically gave him the sob story about the age of the building and that he really shouldn't be doing anything that would in any way endanger that. And wouldn't he, you know, basically I made him feel really bad about it.
Mhm. Well, unfortunately, not everybody we're confronting is in a cogent
Benevolent,
state of
yes.
mind.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned something to
So,
me that the HVAC contractor that you've talked to is not on their list. So what is the follow-up to that?
so we're working on it. I
Okay.
think that the short Lincoln and Harris and we're all kind of dividing and conquering on researching contractors so that we can. One of the terms of our grant from Prosper Portland is that at least 20% has to be spent on with a woman or minority-owned business. Our current HVAC contractor, which would have probably been our preferred one, is not. But what they did as part of the grant paperwork, they did give us a list of their pre-approved women and minority-owned businesses, and there were some HVAC contractors listed there. So we're just, we just got going. So we'll be working on identifying that, and if the HVAC isn't, if we don't find the right answer there, because it's also about who knows how to work on our system, our particular kind of system. But the gates,
Peggy,
maybe we'll have other parts of this.
Yes,
Peggy,
Robert.
I've been meaning to ask you this. So, first of all, I want to make sure that I know what of the projects are tied to the grant. Are they specifically tied to a specific project? That's the first question. So is only the HVAC tied to the 20% minority or women-owned business? And then the next question is, which I haven't had a chance to do the research on, is what is considered a minority-owned business? So is it 51% or
Yes.
is it?
Yes.
It is 51%.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the easy answer is to look at their list of contractors.
Right. Well,
Now, there isn't.
Third question, if I could just, the third question is, let's just say that my business is 51%, which it isn't quite yet, woman owned, but say it was, and I acted as a general contractor. Could I then hire trade contractors that were not minority owned?
Probably.
I
That's the
don't
way it
know.
was. That's the way it worked when I was at Prosper Port, when I was there. We weren't trying to skirt the law, but we did have a situation where we had a 51% ownership, and then they subbed with someone else that kept them within their guidelines.
Right. And this is something that we can talk about in committee. We don't have to take the executive time, but what I'm getting at is these are individual jobs or trades, but we don't have to enter into 5 or 6 different individual contracts. We could have the possibility, if the definition allows it, to have one contract with a minority-owned general contractor, and then have that person trade to other folks.
The other thing I wanted to add is, if I could add this, is that I'm not sure if we could do it, but we may be able to tell Prosper Portland that because of the age and the type of system we have, there aren't that many people that can work on it. And this is why we have selected this contractor, because they are very, very specific to that particular piece of equipment.
Yeah. Just to give you a little background, not to go down too deep into this for the executive committee, but they want you to log that you've contacted others in a good faith effort to engage a woman and minority owned business. But Robert, to answer your previous question, what was under the grant? What this grant was the HVAC, the gates, and the bricks, basically. So
basically everything. Everything except for the windows would have to be a minority-owned contractor.
Actually, I think the windows are in there too. I think she did. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe she listed all the stuff that needed to be done, and we knew we weren't going to get enough money to do it all. But I think everything we're trying to work on is legitimately addressed underneath the grant.
Great. And my point in the email earlier to the committee was, I would love to work with somebody who is minority owned or woman owned. But to Denise's point, we also don't want to hire a minority owned business that only builds new houses and has no historic preservation portfolio. So,
Right.
Any other questions about the building committee? Okay, thank you. I'm going to go back to mute.
What's after the building committee report? Staff interviews?
Yes. And it was not my intent to go through all of that. I shared it with you. I'm gonna wait for Denise. I don't feel like it's worthy of dissecting too deeply.
No,
I think their comments and the summary sort of speaks for itself, and it just points to some opportunities for us to grow and to communicate with staff and very clearly our mission and what success looks like, you know, in as we go forward. So did anybody have any questions or comments about the summary? Maybe that's a good place to.
are we off the grant?
Yes.
Okay, I just needed to add one more thing is that you were going to touch base with staff. I'm hoping that this will be a staff approval for the gates and we don't have to go through a hearing or anything with the Landmarks Commission.
Right.
There should, I don't know where it would be, but we did a bunch of research on gates that might be appropriate for, we can't afford to have something prefabricated to, you know, to make it look absolutely pristine. But I'm trying to remember who we used at Elastalock across the street. And it might have been is it Mascart, Mass something. I think that's who we used.
The challenge with that is that their doorways are different than ours.
Yes,
They
I know.
they have gates with like look like doors.
Yes.
We don't have an ability to use that same kind of design. So I mean, honestly, in a way, those not very pretty but very functional accordion gates, which then disappear almost when you open them up.
Yes. Those are
almost
those are very traditional, and you see that on a lot of the older buildings. We have one building down here that's old that has those on there. I was like, oh.
Yeah, they're very simple, and the building next door has that.
Yes, they do. Yeah,
they're also in the district, obviously. So
yes.
Anyway, I just want to let you know
that's all I want to say about that.
We're taking that on, and
Okay.
I've been reaching out to BDS, and I'm not concerned. I think we'll get her done.
All right.
Were there any questions on
that you needed? The one you said it was the contract, because I thought everything was in the packet. You asked me a question about
in the grant?
The authorization.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're
good. Yes. And I communicated with Nixie. Is that her name?
Nixie.
Yeah.
She used to be my admin.
That's what I heard. No, I think we're okay.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Summary of the staff interviews.
Yes. Like I said, I was just going to ask if anybody had any questions. That was the one thing I didn't print out and bring with me. But I thought it was kind of self-explanatory. And if anybody had any questions or wanted to ask anything about that, Jane?
Yeah, one of the ones that jumped out at me, one of the comments that jumped out at me was their comment about board interference. And that kind of it's in the summary of her interviews. And that kind of thing always bothers me or concerns me from the standpoint that I used to be a staff person at nonprofits. And I was wondering if there is some sense of this was a problem over the course of the time they've been there for particular projects. I mean, I can't stand it when board members interfere. I mean, unless there is some real good reason, When anybody uses the word interfere as a staff person, it makes me worried.
I think we went through this whole issue at Restore Oregon, and I apologize for continually referring back to that, but we had a problem with that, with board members giving direction to staff. And that is an absolute no-no in the way, in the world of nonprofit governance. Board only communicates with the executive director. And then the executive director and I think it would be a worthy thing for the board development committee to review where the lines of demarcation are for board and then ED and staff, because it can really cause a lot of friction. And I know some of our staff hasn't even been there that long, and I can't speak, having not witnessed any of it. I can't give first person observation on it. It just came up more than once. And I wonder if part of the challenge is that with the committees that the boards serve on, a board member's giving input as a committee member that maybe sometimes staff interprets as a direction, a mandate, versus a committee member giving input. So maybe that's something else to just kind of make sure everybody is mindful of.
Yeah, maybe just a couple of examples, maybe that would help the board understand the nature and the scope of it. Because I can think of times when, with the board development committee, where we said, "Hey, Joan, please take over this recognition project and work directly with Sam or Sarah, can't remember who." And I can also imagine a similar kind of situation in terms of the gala. So I can imagine certain times when there's a direct connection with board members, but that's not the same necessarily as board interference.
No, it is not.
Maybe is a need for some more clear communication between the executive director, the staff, and the board members. Because
the executive director should be the buffer, the funnel point, for that sort of thing.
Oh, yes.
And that the other thing I would, I hope I'm not offending anybody here, but I think the other thing that is worthy of conversation is that the board is there. The responsibility of the board is to set objectives for the organization, not to dictate the tactics that execute it. And I recognize that sometimes we've been drawing on board members to fill the gaps in, where there aren't enough arms and legs to do stuff. But I think that's another thing to be mindful of.
Okay, well, let me go to Steve. Did you have something you want to say?
Well, I was going to raise the same point, and I guess the only additional point I would make is to understand, is this more about the time after Stephanie had announced she was leaving and some of us board members were doing things that were sort of executive director kind of roles, or were they really before that time? And, I think I said the last 2 months have been, the last 2 months have been confusing. And I would try to set those aside. And on the other hand, if it happens through committee structures or through directions directly from a board member to a staff person in another setting, I totally agree with you. It's the wrong thing to do, but let's make sure that it isn't about this transition time when all of us were confused.
Well, I will say that I explained very clearly to Sam, Val, Cindy, and Sarah that until we had an interim director, they would be hearing from a couple of us on a regular basis, and that basically they just needed to continue doing what they were doing, and whatever was going on, it would be discussed, not dictated to them. It was like, can we do this? Or like, for instance, when I was working on the letter to announce that we'd hired Peggy, I contacted her and said, I need to talk to you about this. Can you can you help me with this? I will write it. You can edit it. And I said, this is something we need to have on the thing. And I said, again, this is for a direction that we've received, but it wasn't like, okay, do it or else, but it was like, can you help me with this? And I said, if you have time to do this, fine. If you don't, we'll figure something else out. So I see it's under the category here of, I was looking for something else. You have it under here, job satisfaction. So the consistent feedback was feeling criticized by the board. It's like, oh my God, that I don't know where that is coming from. Every meeting that we have had since Sam and Sarah have been on have been consistently telling them what a great job they're doing. I have told them this has come from the board, that they're doing a great job and we appreciate everything they are doing. I've reached out to Val in the same way. I don't know what lack of resources that they have that they can't do. Again, because we didn't have an ED, it needs to be separated out. I'm not taking any offense to this. This is something you need to ask them and then have them get back to us, because that is not the intent. The other thing we need to do is we need to educate the two new people about what it is. If they don't clearly understand, we have board committees. So for example, I'm a committee chair of a committee. And when I would work with Val directly, we would set the agenda. He'd tell me what we think we need to do on the agenda. I say, that's great. He'd send the agenda out. But I had permission to do that as a committee chair. It wasn't like I was telling him to do it. He was telling me what we needed to discuss. I said, that sounds great. So right now we have Steve as a board chair. We have John as a chair of a committee who's looking for a co-chair. And that's still some of that directive. Now that we have you, Peggy, that's going to go through you. But for instance, if it's, setting an agenda, they're going to work with you on that. The committee I was on, it was directly responsible, was Val's committee. So that's how I was working with him, but we haven't had a committee meeting, so that hasn't happened. So we need more clarification of this. And again, they need to understand that during that interim period, yes, it was crazy. We told it was going to be crazy. And we, if there was any hurt feelings or whatever, we're sorry. I'm happy to, reach out to them individually and say, hey, look, thank you for everything. I've tried
let's
let
Peggy do the background work and find out what is the nature of their concern.
You're right. So that's what we need to know. Okay. All right, Gayla.
I'm very worried about it because it is not planned. There is
This is for next year, right? Not this year.
Oh yeah, no, next year, but it's not even, it's barely 6 months off, and we don't have, we don't have a theme. We don't have we made some progress during the meeting, but Joanne does not believe she's a chair. There is no chair. Joan says she's not the chair. The target date is late April. They're in the process of scouting venues. There's an agreement. There will not be an auction. There will be a raffle, sponsorships, and other ways that are a little less labor intensive to hit the targets. They want to keep it simple because we don't have a development director who's putting this together and all that sort of thing. And they're meeting again in 2 weeks, working on kind of trying to come up with a theme and the key messages. I think it'd be really helpful as we head into both year-end campaign. In my mind, I'd like to see this kind of stack up with kind of like the exhibit opening. It's just kind of the little preamble, and then the year-end campaign messages, and then culminating in the gala that we talk about some initiatives that we are embarking on that people can get excited about. So it seemed like. I just have to say, heads up, I'm concerned that this is not anywhere near as far along as it should be at this moment.
I'm concerned too.
We just met on Friday. So, both Sam and Sarah are very enthusiastically trying to bring ideas to the fore and, eager and go-getters, but I feel like we're at a very awkward spot where we need the chair, and we need a better sense of what we're trying to say, what we're trying to bring to people, and anyway, I need to get, I'm going to work to try to get my brain around that in a more robust way. And I'll have more to say in a few weeks, but I didn't want anybody to think that this was rolling merrily along, because it's not at this point.
Jane?
Jane?
Yes, Jane?
Yeah, my comment was that unfortunately I wasn't able to join the meeting on Friday, but what I had conveyed to, I thought, Joanne, was my suggestion that the people who attended last year's gala and people who have attended previous galas, you know, in the last, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, and perhaps some other major donors who you might hope to come to the Big Damn Deal fundraiser of the year might have been asked to give some feedback about the event, and maybe also talk about what kind of events they enjoy coming to. Because what I was hearing just from random people, and I did not attend the major fundraiser, so-called gala this year, but the kinds of things I was hearing from people is there were things they did not like about it. And when somebody talks to you about not how much fun it was, or they can't wait till next year, or things like that, when they're talking about what they didn't like about it, then something needs to be completely rethought.
Well, you didn't talk to me, because I would have told you about what a big damn deal it was, how much I enjoyed it, how much
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to next year. I saw people there I haven't seen in 2 years.
Which is great, but what I'm saying is, what I would suggest, and you know, not my gig, and I'm not taking it on, but to talk to people about what kind of event. I mean, I had one thought about what would make me want to go, and I know that it's not the easiest thing to accommodate, because event spaces are there's very specific needs. The amount of room, the ability to do whatever kind of food you're going to have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I would be very interested in going to the biggest fundraiser of the Bosco Milligan Foundation for the year at a property which is an example of a fantastic use of a historic building, like adaptive reuse.
That's what they're
Mhm.
looking at, from what I understand.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, we spoke about that. We
Okay.
did. We had quite a conversation about potential venues. The challenge is that any venue that does not have baked in food caterer,
Right.
you know, a caterer, or a restaurant attached to it or whatever, it becomes a more expensive and logistically challenging effort to bring food in. And of course, we can also talk about it doesn't have to be a sit-down dinner, maybe, but then you realize that if you don't have a sit-down dinner, people they stand around, they get tired, and they don't mix, you know, they don't have the opportunity to talk. And anyway, there were just lots of back and forth about kind of the both the type of venue and being a historic one, but also then the ability for people to network and talk, and the stuff that they love about that. And so that's where we are. We need more arms and legs. And the thing that kind of concerns me, it'd be obvious to try to make a big effort to talk and give feedback to people, but who is going to do that? Staff does not have the time to do that. I've got 2 part-timers working on, you know, who are the support staff on this, and nobody else on it but me. So from a staff level. So
I'm happy to make some phone calls if somebody gets me a list. I'm not going to create the list.
Well, she's asking who's going to head this up. Joanne does not want to do it. Who is the non-staff person who is going to be the chair of this committee?
I have no idea.
That's the first task.
That's a really good question.
Right. So I'm hearing crickets here. What about a poll to all the board members that say this thing needs a chairperson? Would you like to be it? Can you suggest anybody who could? I mean, I'm looking for what are the next steps to getting a chairperson?
And the thing is, if you've never done this, you have no idea how. You have no idea how to do it for the average person, how you put something like this together. It's kind of a unique discipline. And so I appreciate why people go hide in a corner when people bring that up, that kind of a topic up.
Steve,
A couple of years ago, when we had the event, I think at the first time it was at the University Club, I think we actually hired Bob Gandolfi to be kind of the lead on these things.
oh, the event planner.
Yeah, sort of. And that it was I think Cindy's first year maybe, or maybe her second year, and it was a way of kind of keeping things going. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to do it again. He's more retired now than he was then. But there may be somebody like that who we would think about to help us, particularly if we can't find a chair who's experienced in the complexities of putting one of these events together. Because I know that I don't have those skills, and I know that they're pretty demanding skills. And Bob may have some suggestions. For example, he's a member.
What's his name again, Steve?
Bob Gandolfi, Gandol. I think it's Fi.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and he used to work for the Park Bureau, and he was an organizer of a lot of their travel and tour events, their out of town things. But he also worked then after that for another company that did the kind of events.
Okay.
I might know an event organizer who used to put on all the big damn deal events for the Oregon Humane Society, who might be willing to do a contract. Do you have a budget number? You know, like how much is allocated in the budget to spend and what the net idealistically would be? This might be a Dan question. Hi, Dan. Do you have any idea what was budgeted for the expenditures and the net for the gala next year? Could you I
mean, if we talk about the one that we just did, I mean, we don't have a budget for next year yet.
Right. Perhaps
Yeah,
it
that would
be.
be.
He doesn't have it in his car, probably.
Yeah,
Right there in the visor. It's in the visor.
Yeah. Just flip down the visor, Dan.
Yeah. When you think about it, all we have are what they spent this past year, which was not much because they did it at the AHC. It was the first one out of the pandemic, so it wasn't, as full blown as previous ones have been. But yeah, we need to take a look at that. And the trick with these things is by the time you've paid for the food and the event planner and all the other stuff, having any margin left over profit wise.
Right. So
it's challenging. Of course, your collective bid is going to be the big thing. And in some ways I want to make sure that that we have what we need to get people excited to raise their paddles and do a bit more than they've done before.
Right.
So,
another traditional technique is
so
to
we're
have
gonna
lined up
bring forward.
Wait, one person talking at a time.
Sorry.
Just getting feedback from Michigan. So
I was just going to say, staff is working on messaging. So what we really, I think, need the committee to work on are the logistics.
So can I ask something? First of all, can you hear me? I'm not sure if I pushed the right button. Okay.
Yes.
So I think we can all agree that we're in a unique situation here. We have an interim director. We have the organization has gone through some changes. Is it possible to just use that in a way in which we're saying, instead of putting on a gala that isn't really a gala that is worth and represents this organization correctly, we are instead taking a year break. We are going to come back better and greater next year, but we need your help. And we need your help basically to help, however you want to craft the message. We still need the funds, but we're not going to do the gala. How can we?
I agree. I think it needs to be more of a bare bones event.
Right. And basically you're saying, so if you said to me, look, we're a viable organization. We're going in the right direction. We're making changes, but we're not going to give you something that doesn't really represent the best that we can offer. But we need your help, and how can you help us? And just give a really big ask for low overhead.
Mm-hmm.
Is that possible?
I think you have a really good point, and I guess my response is I think it's possible. We're gonna need to, staff needs to put their heads together and brainstorm it. But I think that is a legitimate question.
Personally, I think it's a horrible idea, and you guys don't really. I mean, if you're talking about wanting to get visible, you've got a brand new exhibit you want to showcase, permanent exhibit. I think it's an opportunity where you need to have a gala and get that outreach. That's my opinion.
But what if it's a stripped down gala instead of the big hoop deal? I'm not interested.
I
in
think
a
we
big-
did that this last time, and it didn't turn out very well.
Okay, well, I enjoyed it. The only thing I didn't like about the last event was they should not have had the videos going on in the other room where people were eating and talking.
Hmm.
That I would have eliminated.
Let's
people-
also remember that this. Yeah, sorry, Denise, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
So the permanent exhibit is running through the upstairs hallway. This is not a gallery exhibit. So it's going to be all wall stuff. You know, that it's kind of like a storyboard that runs down one side of the hallway and up the other side of the hallway is what is my understanding of this. I know Stephanie was working on it with Val. So it's not going to be like a gallery exhibit that people can walk around and sip champagne and enjoy like you think of a traditional gallery gala. This is going to be kind of a permanent thing that is, my understanding is it's going to be kind of like the first of a whole bigger effort to better program and fill the space of the building with preservation stories and pieces of the collection and all that other stuff. But it isn't quite, I think, Dan, what you are imagining. None of that is going to be in either of the downstairs galleries.
Where's
Now the
Betty,
painting
where's the
exhibit
Betty
would be.
Chisholm's if it's going to be?
So yeah, the painting exhibit, that's not going to be a permanent exhibit. That's that's going to be in the classroom, I believe.
Okay.
Right.
And anyway, so that's what I know after a couple of weeks
Right.
on this. So
Yeah. In one sense, it's a relatively small exhibit, and I don't think we can't use it as a basis of a large gala, certainly, given what
right,
I've.
Steve, Steve, you know the content intimately. That's right.
Yeah.
You've been working on it with Val.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we also might, if we're not even hosting it at the AHC, but it's just a way to get people excited about coming and giving them a reason to come to the AHC. Trying to generate excitement. We just restarted it. It would seem weird to have restarted the galas and then take a year off. That to me, that's you're losing any of your momentum, but that's just my thought.
Well, one way to think of it perhaps is, particularly if we're focusing on a group of people and asking them to give without a large gala, is you do have a small exhibit, but you could have several events with 8 or 10 people coming in to look at it and then use that as a chance to have more detailed conversations with people about where we're going next. And it's not a gala, but it's a different kind of fundraising approach. It's more depending on the outcome of the analysis that we do, that the consultant's doing for us, maybe that's more in scale with where we ought to be going for the next year, is something closer to one-on-ones, one on 10s or something that allows us to tell a little bit more story about what's next as well as what's up there. Anyway, that's just another way to think about it.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting idea. And I might suggest refraining from the word gala to refer to this topic as the major fundraiser of the year. Because gala means specific things to different
Right.
people, but
Mhm.
this idea of these smaller, more intimate, several chapters of the major fundraiser, and
Mhm.
using the whole building where seeing the exhibition and maybe having a person responsible for the exhibition talking very intimately with these major donors might be where you use the adjacent gallery space as the place for people to sit and have this interaction with a principal of the exhibition, that use the building different ways in one night.
I have an idea. It just popped into my head while you were talking because you sparked an idea. So we have kind of a new and improved programs committee whose mission isn't just to create a new little lecture program, but to really program the building and really make it a better, bigger and better destination. What if our major fundraiser or multiple small group major fundraisers, series of small fundraisers, was all about walking them through and showing them our vision, because we had really gotten that plan together quickly. Envision this, and we literally show people what we're trying to create inside the building. And we get them excited about the latest evolution of the West Block and how it's evolving in this space, both in terms of what's displayed in it and how it's going to function. And we get them so excited that they want to open up their checkbooks because we've got this exciting plan.
I don't have any problem with that.
I think it's a great idea.
We did something like that before when we first opened the building.
Yeah. Well, and look at how many people. I was watching an old video, and even Greg Goodman, for God's sake, was way before the AHC opened. He was expressing excitement that there was going to be an architectural heritage center. And I'm going, oh my gosh, if Greg Goodman was on board, that was really cool. So knowing where he is today. Anyway, so I think that is, people love to be part of creating something. Well, and creating something that is lasting and impactful. So no pressure, Steve, on the programs committee, but we can come up with a fabulous plans before before next April. And why couldn't we? If we have a deadline, we'll be very effective and efficient.
Yeah. I think we might be able to do that. I also think that one of the things about the situation we're in right now with downtown and the rest of the central city is that Greg Goodman might actually come back in a way that he hasn't in the past, because they're all of them very concerned about what their future's like, and anything that they can contribute to, they might be willing, that might help raise the profile of Central City is going to be good from their perspective. So I think, there's a pitch there that can be made that we should go for. Anyway,
I would like to explore this idea if you all concur.
All those in favor? Just say thumbs up. Okay, Robert, I see your thumb, so you're good.
Hi.
Okay, all right, we got that. All right, so 990 tax filing.
Yes. So, our bookkeeper is sending it off to the CPA, and the only question I had was Denise or Dan to sign it. I'm just going to arbitrarily suggest it should be the president. And you don't have to do anything except sign it when it's done.
That's right. You just call me and let me know, and I will do that. So it's done.
Right. And I assume your process is similar to what Restore Oregon's process was, is that once the tax, the 990 is drawn up, it is circulated around the executive committee for them to review and ask any questions. But Dan will have reviewed it first. And then
we have not done that.
Oh, okay. What's your process?
We have not reviewed the 990. The treasurer basically, the finance committee basically has taken a look at it, and if they're good with it, then it's never gone to the board.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is that correct, Steve?
I think that's right. I think we may have been briefed on it once or
Yeah, we got
twice?
briefed on it, but the
Yeah, but
finance
not,
committee is
I don't
really the
think
one
we
that kind
voted
of
on it. I don't
looked
think we
at
I don't
it.
think the entire
Okay.
board saw it. I don't think
Pardon?
the entire board, I don't think the entire board saw it. I think it was
No.
just the treasurer and the finance committee.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. That's what that's been my experience.
Okay.
That'll simplify the process.
I will do that then. And that's all I have.
Okay. Is there any other business for the good of the order? So just to take people to check their calendars because of where our September board meeting falls. It is, you look at your September calendar, it's got a lot of Fridays. It's got 5 Fridays. It only has 2 Thursdays. Normally, if our meeting was the 15th, we'd meet the week, the week prior, but our executive board meeting would be the same week as the meeting, and that is not going to work.
So I'm sorry if I'm asking a stupid question you've already answered before. Normally the board meeting is the third Friday or the fourth Friday?
Third
Third
Friday.
Friday. So, and the executive committee would be what, the second Thursday normally?
Yes, the second
Right.
Thursday.
And
Okay.
normally they don't come out the day before each other.
Yeah,
And
so like I'm
Right.
saying,
Right.
September is got more Thursdays and less more Fridays and less Thursdays. So I am
Yeah.
wondering if we can meet, we need to meet beforehand. We actually need to, yeah.
so I have it on my calendar for the 7th right now.
That's what I have it on my calendar for.
All right.
Okay, September
I just wanted to
7th.
confirm with everybody that we have that on our calendar.
Okay. And the board meeting is still the 22nd.
The board meeting is the
Oh, 15th.
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 Sorry,
yeah.
the 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
I don't have that board meeting.
Well, and the calendar that Stephanie sent out way long time ago, that was on there.
Right.
Okay.
Is the board
And the-
meeting going to be in person or Zoom?
No, I think we're gonna do Zoom. Don't you think
Okay.
that would be better?
I'm
I
sorry,
might be
could you
able to
repeat?
attend if it's Zoom, but not if it's in person.
Okay.
Yes,
Could you repeat those dates? I'm sorry.
the board meeting
September
is scheduled
7th.
for September 15th. The executive board generally meets on the second Thursday, but the second Thursday is the day
What are the
before
final
board
dates?
meeting.
Yeah, what are the final dates that you're meeting?
7 and 15. I said the idea was horrible, which is unnecessarily harsh. What did Dan say there?
It's okay.
Not sure which idea he was talking about.
The gala.
Well, my understanding is we have not decided on the gala, right? We're gonna explore this other thing, but we're not.
Well, it was
deciding.
whatever it is, it's a fundraising event, whether we call it a gala or not, that's been decided. That's moving forward. I don't know what we're calling it. It doesn't have to be called the gala.
But I believe we agreed that we were at least going to pursue the idea of maybe doing a series of smaller donor gatherings around the new and improved West Block.
I think that's an idea worth exploring. I
Okay.
was going to mention to you, not that I'm going to take this on, but for those of you familiar with Oregon City, for 5 to 6 years, I was the co-chair or the chair of an event that we had at the Ainsworth House that we always had in November for McLaughlin Association. We probably had maybe the largest amount of people we had there was maybe 175, but it was a buffet thing. We also did a small auction and we had a wine raffle. That was pretty much it. And we raised quite a bit of money doing that. I put together like major binders of how you do everything, and they have not done it since.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. I will say that being no further business, we're going to,
Can I
yes.
ask one more question about the fundraising event? The 2021, maybe, where it was strictly remote. If memory serves me, we did pretty well on that, correct? Where it was just Alan and I forget the woman's name, were the MCs, and now we did offer some videos, but
we did two of those. One, Alan was there by himself, and the second one, I was helping him MC with somebody else.
Right. So it seems to me on the fundraising event, it's not the fundraising side that determines whether it's successful, it's the expense side. Does that seem to follow the pattern, a pattern?
I would speak from having attended the AHC events many times and then done the Restore Oregon ones. It's really both. You need to control your costs and you need to obviously bring in money. But the other value is that you create this sense of community and connection to the organization. And I think there's the very hard financial value of it, but there's also the interpersonal connectivity, relationship building, you know, making people feel part of this kind of effort and movement and organization, that if we do too much virtual stuff, I think that's just going to die out.
Right.
And it's something to be thoughtful about.
And so my point is, our challenge is to do both of those at the same time, right? Create this sense of community and value to the organization and raise a lot of money without creating a bunch of expense, right? That's the charge, whatever the committee is.
And with the limited staff capacity to do the work that it requires, because no amount of volunteers makes staff not have to do a whole bunch of work.
No, that's very true.
I don't care how many volunteers you have.
I think the other thing that's I would describe it as there's your costs, there's the revenue raised, and then there's a social benefit of the event that you're looking for, which both Peggy and Jane have talked about. And as a reminder from the staff, there's this message about making the generational transfer. It's almost the social, in some ways, the people that are the age of the staff can't afford the kind of money payments that you need to get to where we would like to get as an organization. So it may be that we need to think about this more pulled apart rather than assembled into one big single thing. Maybe it's a thing that's spread out over a longer period of time that accomplishes all those objectives. I'm not sure.
I agree. I think the board would need to step up and be some of the hosts to take people through the building and stuff like that. So,
well, and I think as we are building a more robust fund development strategy with Dale's help, in a way, this immediate next major donor event is the thing that needs to bridge it financially for us, because the brand new fund development strategy is not going to be up and rolling before we have to have this event and get that money in the door. But thereafter, we may have a whole different strategy that comes out of our work with Dale. So at least for this year, we gotta do something like this. John?
Can I make a suggestion? So my concern about not having a gala is not necessarily because I want to have a gala. I don't like galas, but because we do need to get members back in the building and socializing. And so the major donor event is great, but that's like 10 members. And the rank and file members are going to be like, well, I guess I'm just chopped liver. So as we explore the major donor event, I would like to tack onto that, exploring at least a couple, just kind of get together over wine and Nosh's events, just for everybody. You don't have to pay, you don't have to be nothing, just be an AHC member. You don't have to pay money, but just we want to see your face again. And those aren't expensive. I mean, he's just talking wine and, cheese.
Right.
We got to get people back face to face, in touch.
I agree. We also, though, have to make sure that the street isn't disgusting when they come. So, Anyway, but a good point, John. We might want to think in terms of a tiered series of things, you know,
Yeah.
something to think about.
Okay, well, I have got to be at his council meeting in 15 minutes. So
Okay.
it's our work session. So if there's no further business, we will adjourn and we will be in touch in between.
All right. See you
So
later.
thank you for attending,
Sounds
everybody.
good.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Robert.
Bye.
Thank you, Dan, for looking at your financial stuff on your visor.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Jane. Thank you, Peggy. Have fun at the beach. I'll touch base with you later.
Okay.